麦田捕手17岁的叛逆。麦田捕手 The Catcher in the Rye 是美国作家 J.D. 赛林格 J.D. Salinger 于1951年出版的经典小说。小说以主角霍尔登考菲尔德 Holden Caulfield 第一人称的视角展开，描述了一个孤独、叛逆、对社会感到困惑的17岁少年的故事。故事主要发生在纽约市，讲述霍尔登被宾西中学退学后，在一个周末期间的冒险和思考，他对学校和成人世界的虚伪，以及对自我定位充满矛盾和困惑。故事开始时，霍尔登已经被一所知名寄宿宾西中学退学，他决定提前回家度过寒假。回到纽约后，霍尔登租了一间旅馆房间，开始回想他在宾西中学经历的一切。霍尔登描述了他对这个世界的许多不满和失望。他认为大部分成人都是虚伪而冷漠。他抨击社会的虚伪和他所见到的假模假样的人们，对这些虚伪的社交活动和自己的不适应感到愤怒。他特别关注孩童的纯真无邪，认为孩童是社会中唯一值得珍视的存在。在故事中，霍尔登试图与他人交往，但总是感到中间有隔阂。他与前女友有一段冲突，并试图寻求与朋友的支援，但最终都没有得到他们的理解和支持。故事的高潮发生在霍尔登的妹妹菲比的家庭访问日。霍尔登在学校遭遇了一系列的挫折和失望后，对于他妹妹的未来充满担忧。他决定离开纽约，他想见菲最后一面，因为下次再见面不知道是多少年后了。但他没想到的是，菲比竟然戴着他给他的红色猎人帽，拖着他破旧的大行李箱，要跟霍尔登去纽约。最后他们来动物园，菲比骑上回转木马，霍尔登看住他笑了，心里感到真正快乐。故事最后，他们回到家里，霍尔登重找到一所学校，也重新找到自己的出路。麦田捕手以霍尔登的声音和思想为中心，探讨了年轻人对世界的困惑，对成长的反叛，以及对纯真和真实性的追求。这部小说以其独特的叙事风格和对现代社会的批判而成为文学经典，引发了广泛的讨论和解读。麦田捕手以真实而独特的叙事风格，深刻描绘了青少年的成长、疏离彷徨和人性。这本小说探讨了青少年的情感困境、现实世界的反派以及对纯真和真实性的追求。虽然书中充满了粗俗的俚语和不雅的用词，但鲜明的主题和人物形象触动了许多读者，使其成为经典文学作品之一。
Like as if all you ever did at Pensy was play polo all the time. I never even once saw a horse anywhere near the place. And underneath the guy on the horse's picture, it always says, since 1888 we have been molding boys into splendid, clear-thinking young men. Strictly for the birds. They don't do any damn more molding at Pensy than they do at any other school. I forgot to tell you about that. They kicked me out. I wasn't supposed to come back after Christmas vacation on account of I was flunking 4 subjects and not applying myself and all. They gave me frequent warning to start applying myself, especially around midterms, when my parents came up for a conference with old Thermer, but I didn't do it. So I got the axe. They give guys the axe quite frequently at Pensy. It has a very good academic rating, Pensy. It really does. Anyway, it was December and all, and it was cold as a witch's teat, especially on top of that stupid hill. I only had on my reversible and no gloves or anything. The week before that, somebody'd stolen my camel's hair coat right out of my room, with my fur-lined gloves right in the pocket and all. Pensy was full of crooks. Quite a few guys came from these very wealthy families, but it was full of crooks anyway. The more expensive a school is, the more crooks it has. I'm not kidding. Old Spencer started nodding again. He also started picking his nose. He made out like he was only pinching it, but he was really getting the old thumb right in there. I guess he thought it was all right to do because it was only me that was in the room. I didn't care. Except that it's pretty disgusting to watch somebody pick their nose. Then he said, I had the privilege of meeting your mother and dad when they had their little chat with Dr. Thurmer some weeks ago. They're grand people. Yes, they are. They're very nice. Grand. There's a word I really hate. It's a phony. I could puke every time I hear it. One of the biggest reasons I left Elkton Hills was because I was surrounded by phonies. That's all. They were coming in the goddamn window. For instance, they had this headmaster, Mr. Haas, that was the phoniest bastard I ever met in my life. 10 times worse than old Thurmer. On Sundays, for instance, old Haas went around shaking hands with everybody's parents when they drove up to school. He'd be charming as hell and all. Except if some boy had little old funny-looking parents. You should have seen the way he did with my roommate's parents. I mean, if a boy's mother was sort of fat or corny-looking or something, and if somebody's father was one of those guys that wear those suits with very big shoulders and corny black and white shoes, then old Hans would just shake hands with them and give them a phony smile, and then he'd go talk, for maybe a half an hour, with somebody else's parents. I can't stand that stuff. It drives me crazy. It was named after this guy Ossenberger that went to Pensy. He made a pot of dough in the undertaking business after he got out of Pensy. What he did, he started these undertaking parlors all over the country that you could get members of your family buried for about $5 a piece. You should see old Ossenberger. He probably just shoves them in a sack and dumps them in the river. Anyway, he gave Pensy a pile of dough, and they named our wing after him. The first football game of the year, he came up to school in this big goddamn Cadillac, and we all had to stand up in the grandstand and give him a locomotive that's a cheer. Then, the next morning, in chapel, B made a speech that lasted about 10 hours. He started off with about 50 corny jokes, just to show us what a regular guy he was. Very big deal. Then he started telling us how he was never ashamed, when he was in some kind of trouble or something, to get right down his knees and pray to God. He told us we should always pray to God, talk to him and all, wherever we were. He told us we ought to think of Jesus as our buddy and all. He said he talked to Jesus all the time. Even when he was driving his car. That killed me. I just see the big phony bastard shifting into first gear and asking Jesus to send him a few more stiffs.